you might want to stay off the interstate right now.
Look for alternate routes this morning for sure.
And many of you will be traveling our nation's roadways and railways to visit friends and relatives over the holiday. We've talked about drivers being killed by debris falling from old highway bridges, in train derailments, or even swept away by floodwaters when a dam breaks.
Well, it looks now like Congress is finally about to do something about that. Here with what you need to know is Fox 29 lifestyle expert Shari O. Good morning. Nice to see you again.
Good morning.
All right. Well, for starters, why is there such a problem with our country's infrastructure? Is it just aging?
Sure. And this is a great example of issues mobilization and why it's so important that we have eyes and ears in Washington through organizations. That is the issue, John. Just like all of us will face one day, it's aging. We know that when many of these structures were built, the intent was they would last about 50 years before they needed major revisiting. At the same time, we know that of the 70 some odd dams that have failed in the last 5 years, the average age is 64. Many of those are over 100 years old. We know that 10% of the nation's bridges are structurally insufficient. And we know that over 14,000 people die a year in highway incidents that are traced to problems with our infrastructure.
Wow.
The good news is there's now a plan in Washington to address all of these things.
But let's back up, though. You have that list. It's almost everything. Pipelines, railways, dams, levees. How did we allow it to get so bad?
That's a good question. The problem is we've only been spending a little bit over 2% of our GDP every year since the 1950s on these types of issues. We can really trace those specific things to the Highway Trust Fund, which was established to pay for these things with the idea that users of these infrastructure would be paying for it. So back in the 30s, there was a 1 cent tax on gas. That was raised to 3 or 4 cents back in the 1950s. But the last time it was increased was in the 1990s. It was increased to about 18 cents a gallon, but it was never indexed for inflation. The other problem with that is our cars have become so fuel efficient. And so there's less money we're paying on fuel, there's less tax, there's just less money.
Right, and the money seems to go to everybody else a lot of times. Everybody's got their hand out, and it runs into the billions. Well, I mean, the plan to tax and pay as you go sounds like a good plan, but why are so many folks still mobilizing over this?
Right, and this is why this has become a prime area for issues mobilization in Washington, because a lot of these plans, some of the proposals, involve having homeowners basically pay for the infrastructure through a tax or a charge that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac charge to homeowners. So the question is then, it's so hard to get into a home, it's so expensive. Do we really want to tax new homeowners for this? But the good news is anyone who's traveling over the holiday and is worried about this, there are some great resources on the internet. You just Google insufficient bridges or bridges that need repair, and you'll see maps that will actually show you which bridges they are. So, some folks may want to change their commute. That's my big issue with this, is that we really don't know what risk we're assuming when we take a railroad or cross a bridge.
I just go the easiest route, and it's not always the best route.
The safest route. All right, Shari, thank you very much. We'll be back to wrap it up on a Wednesday in just a moment.